My name is Madison Harper. I'm 29. Last Tuesday at 6:47 a.m., I was standing in the driveway of 7124 Maplewood Lane, watching my father load the last box into Dylan's truck when he turned to me and said, "You should have been the one who never came home from the hospital." The temperature was 34 degrees. I was wearing my grandmother's cardigan. My brother didn't even look up. "Dad, I just asked if you'd talk to the bank about the notice." "Shut your mouth." He slammed the tailgate. "You called CPS on your own family. You think you get to ask questions now?" I was 14 when I called. I was 29 standing there. The lie had grown roots deeper than the oak tree shading that driveway. "I never called CPS. You know that. Mom knows that. Dylan." My brother finally looked at me. "Madison, just stop. You've done enough damage." The foreclosure auction was scheduled for 9 a.m. that morning. In exactly 2 hours and 13 minutes, the home where I'd lived my entire life would be sold on the courthouse steps because my father had stripped $145,000 in equity to fund Harper & Son Auto, my brother's failing repair shop, and then refused every single default notice, every right-to-cure letter, every short sale opportunity for 8 months because his pride wouldn't let him admit Dylan's business was sinking. "I'm trying to help," I said. My voice came out smaller than I wanted. "You want to help?" My father stepped close enough that I could smell coffee and motor oil. "Then disappear. That's the only thing you've ever been good for. Making things worse." Before I go on, if stories about standing up for yourself mean something to you, please hit like and subscribe and tell me in the comments where you're watching from right now and what time is it there. Let me take you back 11 years to when I was 18 and my grandmother was still alive. She lived 2 streets over in a yellow house with a wraparound porch and flowers that bloomed even in November. I used to walk there after school, and she'd have sweet tea waiting in mason jars with mint leaves floating at the top. The porch always smelled like the lavender soap she kept in bowls by the door. "You're sharp with numbers, baby girl," she told me one afternoon. We were sitting on the porch swing. She was crocheting a quilt, pale blue and cream, the kind that takes years to finish. "You need to go to college, study something that gives you power. Dad says college is for people who can't work with their hands." She didn't look up from her stitches. "Your daddy says a lot of things, doesn't make them true." I was filling out college applications in secret. I'd hidden the papers under my mattress. I'd been checking the mailbox every day before my father got home. "Grandma, what if I'm not smart enough?" She set down the quilt and took my face in both hands. Her fingers smelled like yarn and hand cream. "Madison Harper, you listen to me. Smart isn't something you are or aren't. Smart is something you do. And you, baby girl, you do smart every single day without even trying." 3 years later, she was gone. Ovarian cancer, stage 4 by the time they found it. She held my hand in the hospital and whispered, "You're sharp with numbers. Don't forget." I was 21. I'd dropped out of community college to help with her medical bills. The quilt was still unfinished on her dining room table. The first betrayal happened 2 months after her funeral. I came home from my shift at Piedmont Title Services. I was a clerk, basically filing closing documents and running title searches, and found my room empty. Not just clean, empty. The bed frame, the desk, the bookshelf, the boxes of grandmother's things I'd been sorting through, all gone. My father was in the living room watching TV. "Where's my stuff?" "Your brother needed the space. His tools are in there now." My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. "You threw away my stuff?" "I burned it." He didn't look away from the screen. "You don't need clothes for attention-seeking and old lady crafts. You need to learn what real work looks like." "Burned it?" I couldn't breathe. "My clothes? Grandma's quilt?" "That quilt was taking up space. You weren't doing anything with it." "She made that for me." "She's dead, Madison. Dead people don't care about quilts." He finally looked at me. His face was calm, almost bored. And if you're upset about this, imagine how she'd feel knowing you called the state on her son. I didn't call CPS. Then who did? I had no answer. I never had an answer. The report had come in when I was 14. Anonymous tip about neglect and unsafe living conditions. Nothing came of it. But my father had decided it was me, and that decision became family law. Get out of my sight, he said. You're lucky I'm letting you stay here at all. I walked to Mrs. Evelyn Whitaker's house that night. She was 79, lived next door, had watched me grow up. She opened the door at 11:43 p.m., took one look at my face, and pulled me inside. He burned it, I whispered. He burned everything. Mrs. Whitaker made chamomile tea and gave me a blanket. She didn't say anything for a long time. Then, I saw him, honey. I saw him sit on that porch for 40 minutes after he started the fire, just sitting there, watching it burn. I slept on her couch that night. When I went back the next morning, Dylan was already using my room as a workshop. Oil-stained rags on the floor, parts everywhere. He looked at me like I was interrupting. Over the next 3 months, the lie spread. Dad told his brothers. Dylan told his friends. My cousin Emma stopped texting me back. At Christmas dinner, my Aunt Linda said, I just think it's sad when children weaponize the system against their parents. Everyone nodded. I stopped trying to defend myself. What was the point? I had $843 in my checking account. I was working 47 hours a week at Piedmont Title Services, making $14.50 an hour. I ate ramen and peanut butter sandwiches. I wore the same 4 outfits on rotation. I walked to work because I couldn't afford gas. My boss, Elena Voss, was the only person who saw me clearly. She was 54, had been a broker for 26 years, and she watched me handle closing packages with the same careful focus my grandmother used on her quilts. You're too good at this to just be filing, she said one Tuesday morning. Have you thought about getting your real estate license? I don't have money for classes. I'll spot you. She handed me a business card for a licensing program. You pay me back when you're making commissions. Deal? I stared at that card for a full minute. Why would you do that? Because I've been watching you for 2 years, Madison, and you don't miss anything. Not a single decimal point, not a single signature. And that skill? She tapped the card. That's worth something. I passed the North Carolina real estate license exam on my first attempt. I studied at Mrs. Whitaker's house every night for 11 weeks. I memorized property law and fair housing regulations and disclosure requirements. The day I got my license, number 326571, Elena took me to lunch and said, "Now the real work starts." She wasn't kidding. I spent the next year learning the market, showing houses to first-time buyers, running comparative market analyses, building a database of properties in foreclosure and pre-foreclosure. My father didn't congratulate me. He said, "So you're a salesperson now. That's basically legal lying." Dylan laughed. 6 months later, Harper & Son Auto started failing. My brother had opened the shop with $35,000 from my father's retirement account, then another $50,000, then $85,000 from a home equity line of credit on 7124 Maplewood Lane, then $60,000 from a cash-out refinance. I found out about the loans by accident. I was pulling title records for a client's property search and ran a practice search on my childhood address. The liens were right there. Public record, $145,000 in equity loans, all within 3 years. I called my father. "Dad, I saw the title report on the house. You've taken out—" "That's none of your business. Dad, you're at 97% loan to value. If Dylan's shop doesn't—" "Dylan is building a legacy, something you wouldn't understand. Dad, the mortgage is in default. I can see the filings. You're 63 days past due. The bank sent a notice of acceleration. Stop digging into my finances like some kind of spy. I'm trying to help you avoid foreclosure. We're not going to lose the house, Madison. Dylan's shop is turning around. He just needs time." But time ran out. The bank filed for foreclosure in February. My father ignored the summons, he ignored the court date, he ignored the judgment. He had 12 weeks to cure the default or negotiate a short sale. He did nothing. Pride doesn't pay mortgages, I told him in March. You'd love to see me fail, wouldn't you? He was standing in the garage, arms crossed. Dylan was under a car, pretending not to listen. You've been waiting for this your whole life. Dad, if you don't respond to the bank, they're going to auction the house. Then let them auction it. Nobody's going to buy that place anyway. That was the first time I realized he genuinely didn't understand. He thought the house was worthless. He thought the market would save him. He thought the bank was bluffing. He was wrong. The public humiliation happened on a Thursday afternoon in May. I was at Piedmont Title Services, Elena's office, where I worked as a junior agent, meeting with a client couple about their first home purchase. Ryan and Sophia, two other agents, were at their desks. Elena was in her office on a call. The front door opened. My father walked in. He saw me at the table with the clients and the purchase agreement spread between us. Madison. Dad, I'm with clients right now. We need to talk. The couple glanced at each other. The wife started gathering her purse. Can it wait 30 minutes? I kept my voice level. No. He walked to the table. Your brother's shop is closing. We need the money you've been hiding. My face burned. I'm not hiding money. You've been getting paychecks from this place for 3 years. Where is it? Ryan was staring. Sophia had stopped typing. Dad, I paid rent. I paid for food. I paid Elena back for my licensing program. You owe your family. We raised you, fed you, kept a roof over your head, even after you betrayed us. The clients were standing now. The husband said, We can come back. No, stay, my father said. Let them see what kind of person you're buying a house from. Someone who abandons her family when they need her most. Something clicked in my chest. Not anger. Something colder than anger. Dad, I said quietly, I need you to leave. Excuse me? This is my workplace. I'm with clients. You need to leave. His jaw tightened. Don't you dare talk to me like, I'll call you tonight, but right now, you need to go. He stared at me for 6 seconds. Then he looked at the clients. Good luck dealing with this one. She'll smile to your face and stab you in the back the second it benefits her. He left. The door slammed. The clients gathered their things in silence and left 2 minutes later without rescheduling. Elena came out of her office. Madison? I'm fine. You're shaking. I was. I looked down at my hands. They were trembling like I'd been holding something heavy for too long and just let go. Ryan said, That was your dad? I nodded. Jesus. Sophia looked at me with something close to pity. I hated it. Do you want to go home early? No. I sat back down. I'm fine. I just need a minute. But I wasn't fine. That night I went home. My apartment now, a studio on the east side of Concord, and I pulled up the property records for 7124 Maplewood Lane. The foreclosure auction was scheduled for June 18th at 9 a.m. on the Cabarrus County Courthouse steps. I read through the filing 3 times. The opening bid would be $198,400, the amount owed on the first mortgage plus fees. The property was worth $285,000 in current market conditions, even with the deferred maintenance. New roof needed. Plumbing issues. Water heater on its last legs. I had $17,600 in savings, enough for a 10% earnest deposit if I wanted to bid, not enough to close. I called Elena at 10:22 p.m. I need to ask you something, and I need you to tell me if it's crazy. Go ahead. The house I grew up in is going to auction in 3 weeks. My father stripped all the equity from my brother's business and refused to cure the default. If I wanted to bid on it, hypothetically, could I get financing approved in time? Silence. Then, how much are we talking? Opening bid is $198,400. Property's worth $285,000. I have $17,600 cash. That's $7,000 over the 10% deposit. You'd need proof of funds for closing and a pre-approval letter from a lender. I know, that's why it's crazy. Madison. Her voice was careful. Why do you want to buy your father's house? I don't want to buy it. I want to make sure it doesn't go to some investor who'll flip it and erase every memory my grandmother built there. Does your father know you're considering this? No. Good. Keep it that way. She paused. Give me 24 hours. I might know someone who'll work with us. The next day, Elena introduced me to James Kincaid, a private lender who specialized in auction financing for real estate agents. He reviewed my income, my credit score, my employment history, and my complete property analysis of 7124 Maplewood Lane. This is a solid investment, he said. Even with the repairs, I can get you approved for $200,000 hard money loan, 12% interest, 6-month term. You'll need to refinance into conventional within that window. And if I can't, then I foreclose, and we both lose. He slid the paperwork across his desk. But I don't think that's going to happen. Elena says you're the best detail person she's ever worked with. I signed the papers on June 10th, 8 days before the auction. My father called me on June 15th at 7:33 p.m. Dylan's closing the shop next week. I'm sorry, Dad. Are you? Because it feels like you've been waiting for this. I've been trying to help you avoid foreclosure for 6 months. You wouldn't listen. The house is gone, Madison. The bank's taking it. I hope you're happy. I'm not happy. I'm sad. For you, for Mom, for the fact that you chose Dylan's failing business over the house Grandma loved. Don't you dare bring her into this. She died in that house, Dad, in the room that's now full of Dylan's broken tools. He hung up. On June 17th, the day before the auction, I went to Mrs. Whitaker's house. She made sweet tea. We sat on her porch, the same porch where she'd let me sleep 3 years ago after my father burned my things. I'm going to the auction tomorrow, I said. I figured. She rocked slowly in her chair. Your grandmother would be proud. I don't know if I'm doing the right thing. Right thing isn't always the comfortable thing, honey. She reached over and patted my hand. But I'll tell you what I saw 11 years ago, when your grandmother was getting sicker. She came over here one afternoon. She was so thin by then, and she said to me, Evelyn, if something happens to me, I need you to watch Madison. Victor's going to try to break her. He's been doing it her whole life. I stared at her. She said that? She said more than that. She said she'd been setting things up, making sure you'd be okay. She had a lawyer, Mr. Garrison Hodge over on Union Street. She made me promise not to tell you until the time was right. My throat closed. What things? What did she set up? I don't know the details. She just said when you were ready, when you were strong enough to stand on your own, there'd be something waiting. Do you have his number, the lawyer? She went inside and came back with a business card. Garrison Hodge, attorney at law. An address in downtown Concord. I called his office the next morning at 8 a.m., 1 hour before the auction. Mr. Hodge's office. Hi, my name is Madison Harper. My grandmother was Judith Harper. She passed away 8 years ago, and a neighbor told me she'd worked with Mr. Hodge on some legal matters. I'm wondering if there's any documentation or, hold, please. 30 seconds later, a man's voice came on the line. Madison? Yes? This is Garrison Hodge. I've been waiting for your call. My hands were shaking. I don't understand. Your grandmother left specific instructions. She said when you called, and she was certain you would call when you were ready. I was to give you a sealed envelope. Can you come to my office today? I have to be at the courthouse in 45 minutes. Then come after. This has waited 8 years. It can wait 2 more hours. I went to the auction. I stood on the courthouse steps in 91-degree heat with my pre-approval letter and my cashier's check for $20,000. There were four other bidders, two investors in suits, one LLC represented by a lawyer, one private buyer. The auctioneer started at $198,400. I bid $199,000. The LLC bid $205,000. I bid $210,000. One of the investors dropped out. The LLC bid $220,000. I bid $225,000. The other bidders went silent. The auctioneer called it 3 times. Going once, going twice. Sold to bidder number 7 for $225,000. I signed the paperwork in a daze. The deed would transfer to me in 10 days pending title clearance and fund disbursement. I'd just bought my childhood home out from under my father for $225,000. I drove directly to Garrison Hodges' office. It was in an old brick building with a law library on the first floor. He met me in a conference room. He was 68, gray hair, kind eyes. "Your grandmother came to see me in 2014, he said, about 6 months before she passed. She was very clear about what she wanted." He handed me a manila envelope. My name was written on the front in my grandmother's handwriting. She said you'd know when to open it. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely tear the seal. Inside was a letter, 3 pages, handwritten, and a folder of documents. I read the letter. I read it twice. Then I sat there for 11 minutes without moving. Mr. Hodge waited. Finally, I looked up. "Can I take this with me?" "It's yours. Always has been." I drove home. I sat on my apartment floor with the letter spread in front of me. I read it again. Out loud this time. Like I was hearing her voice. The letter said, "My dearest Madison, if you're reading this, then I'm gone, and your father is already doing exactly what I knew he would do. I'm sorry I couldn't protect you while I was alive. I tried, baby girl. I tried to talk sense into Victor, but he doesn't hear reason. He only hears what he wants to hear. And what he wants to hear is that Dylan is perfect and you're expendable. Do you remember that afternoon on my porch when you told me you were applying to college? You were so scared. You thought you weren't smart enough. I told you smart is something you do, not something you are. I meant every word. The original deed to 7124 Maplewood Lane is with Mr. Hodge. Your grandfather bought that house in 1968 for $18,000. When he died in 1997, it passed to me. When I got sick, I wanted to leave it to you, but I knew if I put your name on a will, your father would contest it. He'd tie you up in probate for years. He'd make sure you never saw a dime. So I did something else. I set up a trust. The Mary Judith Harper Family Trust, executed in March 2014. I transferred the deed into the trust with specific instructions. If Victor defaulted on the mortgage or lost the house to foreclosure, you would have first right of purchase at auction with financing assistance from the trust fund. Inside this envelope, copy of the original 1968 deed proving grandfather's purchase, copy of the 1997 transfer to me proving I inherited, copy of the 2014 trust document proving I transferred it to the trust, bank statements showing your father's 3 equity loans between 2019 to 2022, proving he stripped the value. Copy of the foreclosure notices he ignored, proving his negligence. Cashier's check for $75,000 from the trust fund to help you refinance and cover repairs. Mr. Hodge has witnessed statements from me and from Evelyn Whitaker detailing your father's treatment of you over the years. Not for revenge, baby girl, just for truth. You are not what he says you are. You are not a burden. You are not ungrateful. You are not the person who called CPS. I checked with the county 8 years ago, and they confirmed the call came from a school counselor after Dylan showed up to middle school with a black eye. Your father blamed you because it was easier than admitting he'd hit his own son. You are sharp with numbers. You always have been. And now you have a house and a future, and proof that you were loved. Don't show this to your father yet. Not until you're ready. Not until you're safe. But when the time comes, and you'll know when that is, show him everything. Show him that love plans ahead. Show him that love doesn't burn quilts and steal rooms and spread lies. Love protects. All my heart, Grandma P.S. The quilt I was making for you is in Mr. Hodge's office safe. He's had it finished by a professional. It's yours now, pale blue and cream, just like you remember. I sat there on my apartment floor until 9:47 p.m. Then I called Elena. I bought the house. I know. James called me. Madison, are you okay? My grandmother left me a letter. What did it say? It said she knew. She knew everything. She knew what he'd do, and she planned for it. Elena was quiet for a moment. Then, what are you going to do? I'm going to refinance. I'm going to fix the roof and the plumbing. I'm going to prove the title is clear. And when my father finds out I own it, I'm going to let the documents speak for themselves. Good, Elena said. That's exactly what you should do. The deed transferred to my name on June 28th. I got the keys on June 30th. I didn't tell my father. I didn't tell Dylan. I didn't tell anyone except Elena, Mrs. Whitaker, and James Kincaid. I hired contractors. I replaced the roof for $12,800. I fixed the plumbing for $6,400. I installed a new water heater for $1,900. I used the $75,000 from my grandmother's trust to cover costs and refinance into a conventional 30-year mortgage at 6.8% interest. By August, the house was mine. Clear title, clear conscience. On August 22nd, I sent my father a single photograph in the mail. No letter, no explanation. Just a photo of the deed with my name on it and the property address clearly visible. He got it on August 24th. I know because Mrs. Whitaker called me. He's been sitting on his porch for 2 hours, she said, just staring at that picture. Did he say anything? Not a word. Dylan came outside around noon, asked what was wrong. Your father showed him the picture. Dylan went back inside and hasn't come out since. I waited. I knew he'd come eventually. He showed up at my office 3 days later. August 27th at 3:18 p.m. I was reviewing a purchase agreement with Ryan. Sophia was on the phone with a title company. Elena was at her desk working through an appraisal report. The door slammed open. My father stormed in, his face red, the deed photograph crumpled in his fist. You think this is funny? He was yelling before he even reached my desk. You think you can take my house? Everyone stopped. Ryan put down his pen. Sophia ended her call mid-sentence. Elena stood up. I stayed seated. I kept my voice calm. Dad, I'm at work. I don't care where you are. He threw the photograph on my desk. You took my house. You went to that auction and you bought my house out from under me like some kind of vulture. It was a public auction. Anyone could bid. You knew I was losing it. You knew Dylan's business failed. And instead of helping your family, you swooped in and stole it. I didn't steal anything. The bank foreclosed because you refused to make payments for 9 months. Because I was trying to save my son's business. By destroying your own house? His jaw clenched. That house was supposed to stay in the family. It did stay in the family. I opened my desk drawer and pulled out the folder Mr. Hodge had given me. Grandma made sure of it. What are you talking about? I pulled out the first document. This is the original 1968 deed. Grandpa bought the house for $18,000. When he died, it passed to Grandma. Are you following so far? He stared at the paper. This, I said, pulling out the second document, is the 2014 trust transfer. Grandma moved the house into the Mary Judith Harper Family Trust 6 months before she died. You never legally owned it. You just had permission to live there. That's impossible. This, I continued, pulling out the third document, is the trust provision. It says if you defaulted on the mortgage or lost the house to foreclosure, I had first right of purchase with financing from the trust fund, which is exactly what happened. You're lying. These are public records, Dad. You can verify them yourself at the Register of Deeds office. I pulled out the fourth document. And this is the bank statement showing you took out $85,000 in a HELOC in 2019, $60,000 in a cash-out refinance in 2021, and let the mortgage go into default in February of this year. All to fund Harper & Son Auto, which filed for bankruptcy protection in May. Ryan was staring. Sophia had her hand over her mouth. Elena was standing perfectly still. My father's face went white. You had no right. I had every right. Grandma gave it to me. In writing, witnessed by her attorney, filed with the county. She wouldn't. She did. Because she knew exactly what you'd do. She knew you'd choose Dylan over everything else. She knew you'd lose the house. And she made sure that when you did, it would come back to me. He looked around the office. At Ryan, at Sophia, at Elena. Like he was searching for someone who'd back him up. No one moved. You ungrateful. I never called CPS. My voice was steady. Grandma checked with the county 8 years ago. The call came from Dylan's middle school counselor after you gave him a black eye. But it was easier to blame me than admit what you'd done, wasn't it? His mouth opened. Nothing came out. I have the documentation. Witness statement. County records. Exact date and time of the call. I stood up. You burned my clothes and Grandma's quilt because I applied to college. You gave my room to Dylan for his tools. You took $145,000 in equity loans and let the house go to foreclosure. And when Grandma tried to protect me, you called her interfering. Madison. I bought the house for $225,000 at public auction. I refinanced it into my name. I fixed the roof you neglected. I fixed the plumbing you ignored. I paid for repairs you should have made years ago. That house is mine now, legally, ethically, completely. Elena stepped forward. Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. This isn't over, my father said. Yes, it is. I picked up the deed with my name on it. It's been over since 2014. You just didn't know it yet. He stood there for another 10 seconds. Then he turned and walked out. The door didn't slam this time. It just closed. Quiet. Final. Ryan exhaled. Jesus, Madison, Sophia said. Your grandmother set that up 8 years ago? She knew, I said quietly. She knew exactly what he'd do. Elena came over and put a hand on my shoulder. You okay? I nodded. Yeah, I'm okay. That night, Mrs. Whitaker called me. He came back around 5 p.m., sat in his truck in the driveway for 20 minutes. Then Dylan came out, and they left together. Haven't seen them since. Are you worried? About you? No, honey. You did exactly what Judith wanted. I'm just sad it took this long. Me too. 3 weeks later, my father filed a lawsuit contesting the trust. It was dismissed within 48 hours. The judge reviewed the trust documents, the deed transfers, the foreclosure timeline, and the auction records. He ruled that the trust was valid, the transfer was legal, and my purchase was legitimate. Dylan closed Harper & Son Auto permanently in September. My father stopped calling. My mother called once. She said, I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything, Mom. He's my husband. I know. But you're my daughter. I know that too. She was quiet for a long time. Then, your grandmother loved you very much. I know. I should have protected you more. Mom, I'm sorry, Madison. I'm sorry I stayed quiet. You don't have to apologize. You were scared. I get it. I'm proud of you, she said. I should have said that years ago. We didn't talk for long, but it was something. 6 months later, I moved into 7124 Maplewood Lane. I kept Grandma's room exactly as it was. I hung the pale blue and cream quilt, the one she'd started when I was 18, the one Mr. Hodge had kept safe all these years. On the wall in the living room, I planted flowers in the front yard, lavender, the kind that smells like her porch. Mrs. Whitaker came over for sweet tea on Sundays. Elena stopped by to check on renovations. Ryan and Sophia helped me paint the kitchen. My father never came back. In December, I went to the cemetery. I stood at my grandmother's grave for a long time. The headstone was simple. Mary Judith Harper, 1946 to 2017, beloved mother and grandmother. You were right, I said out loud. Smart is something you do. The wind was cold, the sky was gray, but I wasn't. If you're reading this, and you've ever felt like the family scapegoat, the one who's blamed for everything and valued for nothing, I want you to know something important. Silence isn't peace. Silence is just the price you pay so other people don't have to face the truth about themselves, and that price is too high. You don't need anyone's permission to protect yourself. You don't need anyone's approval to walk away from people who hurt you, even if they're family. Love doesn't burn your belongings. Love doesn't take your room and give it to someone else. Love doesn't strip equity and let the house fall apart while funding someone else's dream. Love protects. Love plans. Love makes sure that even when it's gone, you're still taken care of. I'm 29 years old. I own a house. I have a career I built from nothing. I have people who see me clearly. And I have a pale blue and cream quilt hanging in my living room that proves someone loved me enough to plan ahead. That's enough. If you've ever had to walk away from family to protect yourself, type "I walked away" in the comments. Or if you chose to stay and set boundaries from the inside, type "I stayed and fought." Both are brave. Both are valid. Both are proof you're surviving. If this story meant something to you, check the description for more stories just like this one. Thank you for being here.